Hello, and welcome to the Castle Talk podcast, where we talk to writers and creators of today's genre worlds. From Denver, Colorado, I'm your host, Jason Henderson, author of the upcoming series Young Captain Nemo from Fievel and Friends Macmillan Books. Tonight, Michael Okon is the author of the new book Monsterland from Wordfire Press. He is a best-selling author of multiple genres, from paranormal, thriller, horror, action, adventure, even self-help. Comes from a family of writers. He has storytelling in his DNA, but he says that coming to this book we're going to talk about comes from being a movie buff, and he's right now calling from the North Shore of Long Island, where he lives with his wife and kids. Michael, welcome.
Hey, Jason, thanks for having me. How you doing?
Oh, fantastic. I'm so excited. It was really funny because we were on a talk yesterday, and then throughout the Front Range of Colorado, we had this warm, wet snow, and I lost power, and we weren't able to talk, and I felt awful, but I'm no
Oh,
longer.
good.
Yeah, you can't conduct a podcast by candlelight, it turns out, and
I hear you.
so.
I got to tell you, it's 75 degrees on Long Island right now. I mean, like we went pumpkin picking, and I was wearing shorts and flip flops. So
Oh
go
man.
figure. Yeah.
Well, no, it's back up to the 70s today.
Oh,
Yeah,
good.
Northern California, Northern Colorado can be really unusual. Okay, but Monsterland. The brand new book is
Yeah.
Monsterland. It's from Wordfire
Yeah.
Press. The concept is the scariest place on earth. It's about a boy who gets invited to the grand opening of a theme park that features actual vampires, zombies, and werewolves. So, how did first of all, okay, before we get to how that came about, how does that actually work in the book? This is a YA novel. Are these like real monsters running around in the theme park?
Oh, yeah. And the cool part about writing Monsterland, and mind you, I want to mention that I wrote this book over 2 years ago. So I didn't write this book this past summer, 2017. This book was written over 2 years ago, and I'm sure we'll dive into that during the interview. A lot of the
Yeah.
story is taking place through the monster's point of view. That monsters are not really monsters, even though they're considered to be the typical trope of what a werewolf, vampire, or zombie actually is. There's a history behind each one of these quote unquote monsters, and I can't reveal too much because it really dives into the story of consumerism. There's a lot. I'm a big political junkie, and there's a lot of politics in it when it comes to the monsters and where their place is in society. Should zombies be treated? They're almost treated as Holocaust victims. They're in containment camps. Do zombies have the right to die a decent death and not in a camp?
Are the
Are
zombies, so just so I understand, the zombies that are actually in this, so are they smart zombies or are they brainless like the Romero zombies?
Well, no, I didn't want to bite off Romero, but zombies in Monsterland are actual humans. Every monster in my book is an actual human that has been consumed by a disease,
I see.
and the zombies is a big metaphor for big business, for again Holocaust internment camps, even more modern day internment camps. And the disease ravages you where all the zombie wants to do is consume flesh.
Right.
They're actual humans, and they don't care if the flesh is a dog, a human, or rat. And you'll see that the antagonist of the series, and I say series because I'm already up to Monsterland 4 now.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
oh yeah, oh yeah. This thing is going into a trajectory that I never thought was possible. Um, the antagonist is putting them on lavish display. Where I took the idea of swimming
Right.
with sharks, where you can go and swim with
Yeah.
sharks in an amusement park or in SeaWorld or whatever. And I
Yeah.
took it that you're walking with zombies, where you get to dress up in full mesh and a chainmail, and you
Oh
could
my
walk among the
gosh.
living dead. Yeah, yeah, and
No,
you could
that's
you
actually
could
completely conceivable, and I can see the ethical concerns where if a zombie in your world is somebody who's been taken over by a disease such that they still have their faculties, but they are consumed with this need to
correct.
consume flesh, that's basically like somebody who's in the throes of drug addiction. And so there's the
Oh
question,
yeah, oh yeah.
are we would we be ethical to take a drug addict and like put him on display so that all of us can sort of interact with him and mock him and all
Well,
that stuff.
you,
Yeah,
you jumped right over to the vampires. The vampires are heroin addicts, but heroin to a vampire is blood.
yeah.
And the vampires in Monsterland, in my Monsterland, are rock stars. These are freewheeling rock stars from the 80s and 90s of these vampires who loved, they're sociable, they love the crowd, and they couldn't recruit because the government passed laws to say you're not allowed to recruit. And when I say recruit, it's a euphemism for intercourse.
Yeah.
You get bit by a vampire, you drink the blood and you become their drone. You become their kind of like their ally, but you don't become a full-out vampire. So again, where does that stand? Vampires in Monsterland are equivalent to gay marriage. Should gays be married? Should they be allowed? That was when when I was writing it. That was the big hot topic.
Right.
Should they be allowed to procreate, the vampires? Should they be? They're not bothering anyone. They're not scaring anyone. They're just rock stars. They just want to live a good life and drink people's blood
Sure.
that want to be drank from.
Right. Right. No, I can imagine a whole world of, yeah, they want to commit this particular act, and you've got people who want to be a part of that. Especially dealing with vampires, the whole idea of they're going to
Exactly.
victimize somebody, and there's somebody who wants to be their victim. And there's also this ethical question of if somebody wants to be their victim, but that's clearly a crazy idea. If it's
Yeah.
clearly just this blood drinking fetish, do we have a right to exploit that? I mean, it's really interesting ethical
Oh yeah.
question. But this is the plot of the first book. This is a YA novel, right? You've got main characters who have their own
Oh
plot
yeah.
that are going into this park.
Oh yeah.
Is this like Jurassic Park, basically, where they're going to the opening of a park and everything's going to go wrong?
So to say that it's like Jurassic Park was a huge influence. I can't deny that. I am a Michael Crichton guy.
Right.
But I feel that to say that it's like Jurassic Park, they put the dinosaurs on display as, kind of like, not, you have to be really rich to go to the island, this and that. This was Disney World, because I'm a Disney guy. I got a 9-year-old and a 5-year-old, and we're
Right.
Disney people. We love it. And just being in the park, you forget about the outside world. So this is a story about a young teen, not really a young teen. He's turning 18 years old. His name is Wyatt Baldwin. His parents got divorced, and his father mysteriously passed away in the past year, and his mother remarried. They moved from L.A. Wyatt and his brother Sean were living in L.A., living the good life, and then they moved to Copper Valley, California, which is this town that I created, which is I don't know if you've been to between Las Vegas and Los Angeles, but it's Barstow, it's Victorville, it's San Bernardino, these small towns
Sure.
that are pretty much the microcosm of America. And this is where the park is being built. Wyatt only wants a date with the elusive Jade, this girl who he really, really likes, and she's the most popular girl in school. But she is going out with the school quarterback, Nolan
Sure.
Stewart, whose father owns the local car dealership, who's brash and he could sucker punch, teammates on the football team. But Wyatt gets the opportunity of a lifetime, and Wyatt's good deed, and this really goes for the entire series. This is part of the book, but Wyatt's good deed of flipping burgers. He works in a burger joint called Instaburger. Think In-N-Out in my
Right.
in
Absolutely.
this Monsterland. Yeah, think In-N-Out in this Monsterland universe. He does this good deed where he buys this homeless person a cheeseburger because he feels bad for them, and it turns out that what this homeless person is actually the owner of the park, and he gets presidential passes, and I can't reveal too much, but Jade's there, his love interest, and this is really a rite of passage. I love Joseph Campbell. I've read everything by Joseph Campbell, The Hero with a Thousand Faces,
Sure.
all the books on myth. I love the structure of stories and
Okay, did
Star
you
Wars.
can I stop you
Yeah,
there? I just want to you mentioned
sure.
Campbell, and
Oh
Campbell
yeah,
sometimes I find a little hard to read, but everybody who like
yeah.
distills Campbell, there's like Vogler, there's that
Oh yeah,
wonderful long interview that with Bill
oh
Moyers,
yeah.
where he talked to
Yep,
Joseph
yep.
Campbell. Have you read the Vogler
Yeah.
one? That's like
The
that was my
Christopher Vogel, I
Bible.
think it's called it's the writer's journey, I believe, or
Writer's
something
Journey.
like that. Yeah, 100%. I mean, I have a huge library in my house, and I have an entire section dedicated to screenplays and telling stories. And
Yeah.
I felt that this was a story that had to be told. And yes, this is Star Wars. This is a young Luke Skywalker who has to learn his destiny. Yes, this is Harry Potter about a boy with no parents who's going to go on this journey to learn magic and become a wizard. There's so many more layers, obviously, to it. But the story, my protagonist, Wyatt Baldwin, is my Luke Skywalker. He goes on this journey, and I hit every beat. And yes, Joseph Campbell is very, very heavy. And for new writers or writers who really their eyes glaze over, when it comes to heavy reading, my Bible is Save the Cat by Blake
Oh
Snyder,
yeah.
the late great Blake Snyder.
Sure.
Save the Cat, Your Screenplay Sucks by William Akers. These two books have changed the way I wrote stories. In every one of my stories, I was self-publishing for years under an alias called Michael Philip Cash. Michael was my first name, Philip because I love the actor Philip Seymour Hoffman, and Cash because I'm a big Johnny Cash fan. So
Right.
I pretty much took my heroes and made my own writer's name. And all of my books, every one of my books, and I had 18, 3 of them were self-help, but so 15 of my novels all started out as screenplays. I
So
love
do you
the idea
use
of
that structure? And by the way, all those
oh
books you're
yeah,
talking about, I the other day somebody mentioned they go, I don't like the writing section of the bookstore because it feels like a trap. I actually love books about writing, and it doesn't mean that I follow
yeah,
every one of them to the T, but I kind of feel like
correct.
the more of this wisdom you take in, the more you can choose which ones are for you and which ones aren't for you. But it seems it seems very responsible as a writer to just keep taking in more and more of this information. But are you
Jason,
following?
you nailed it.
Yeah.
You nailed it. You absolutely nailed it. Look, I'm no Quentin Tarantino. I can't tell a story out of order, right? I'm no Charlie Kaufman. I can't write like Charlie Kaufman, but I can definitely beat out a storyline with all
Right.
these different layers and all these different characters and the B story and the promise of the premise and the midpoint and the Dark Night of the Soul. I can hit those beats and make them my own, and finagle certain pages here and there where I can make it like a Quentin Tarantino,
Yeah.
who writes his own way. But yes, there is a formula that everyone on planet Earth understands. Every single Marvel movie is Save the Cat. Every movie ever made is Save the Cat. It's Joseph Campbell. It's the myth of the hero. And I had to create this hero. And look, all my books have a hero, but particularly Monsterland, Wyatt Baldwin is, again, I hate to sound redundant, is my Luke Skywalker. He's going on this
Yeah.
journey where he's starting out as a boy flipping burgers, but by the end of it, I mean, he's chopping off werewolves' heads.
But you started out in you said you started out in self-publishing, but now this is
Correct.
coming out through Wordfire Press, which is a commercial publisher run
Correct.
by Kevin J. Anderson.
Yes.
So
Yes.
how did that come about?
I literally have to pinch myself, and it's a bit of a long story, but I'll give you the shorter version of the long story. So I wrote. I'll give you the abridged version. I was writing. I've been writing screenplays since I was in college. Before that, I was in creative writing. I majored in English, and I always wrote. I loved writing stories, and I wrote Monsterland. I self-published it, and it got really nice reviews. It was over 140, 138 something reviews on Amazon, and I was reading a book by Sid Field, the late great. I don't know what's the screenwriter guy is passing away, but Blake Snyder and
Right.
Sid Field. Sid Field wrote a book called, I always get the name wrong, Selling a Screenplay in Hollywood, or How to Sell a Screenplay in Hollywood, or whatever. It was about the inner workings of Hollywood, about agents and lawyers
No
and all this
kidding.
stuff.
I don't think I mean,
And
I've seen Screenplay and I've seen
it's called
what is it
yeah.
called? 5 screenplays or something that he did?
No, yeah.
Anyway,
Look, if
continue.
you go on
Go ahead.
Amazon, it's there. And I bought it in a local bookstore up in Huntington, where I live a few miles from, Huntington, Long Island, which has a great bookstore called The Book Review. Shout out to The Book Review. So I picked it up. It was a few bucks, whatever, and I read it. And I'm reading it, and I get to this entertainment attorney section. And again, I know nothing when it comes to law. I'm a writer, whatever the case. I'm reading it, and there's a lady's name in there named Susan Grode, and she's this quintessential entertainment attorney, and she's saying how it gets done. Now, they're talking in this book about a new film coming out called Top Gun. Okay, that's how old this book is.
Yes.
So this is 1989 or 88 or something. I don't remember when Top Gun came out, but it was almost 30 years ago.
Earlier than that. for what it's
It
worth.
might have been 86. Right,
It's like
exactly. It might have been
85, I
86.
think. I'm just guessing,
It's
but I would say about
possible.
85.
It's very possible. But they're talking about Jerry Bruckheimer and Don Simpson, who were alive at the Don Simpson, who was alive at the time, was talking about this new
God, Don
movie, Top
Simpson.
Gun. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm reading it, and this lady's name pops out of me, and I say, you know what? When the day I get my first contract, I'm gonna find her, I'm gonna email her because I don't know an entertainment attorney for the life of me. Fast forward 2 months later. This is around December 2015. My mom is my marketing guru. She promotes all of my books, but I have a whole team behind me. I write the stuff. I come up with the ideas. I got beta readers, but my mom is the marketing genius. She's the publicity lady who's getting my book to the masses with her team. And she, sends out Monsterland to a few different people. And then I get an email on Facebook one night, and it's an agent in London. Lovely man. He was he emailed me saying, I got Monsterland. I loved it. I want to rep you. So I spoke to him on the phone, and I said, I'm a self-published author. I have a nice little book business going on. My mom wrote 50 children's books. So we're definitely, sure, if you want to do something, we can. I wasn't looking for it, but he contacted me. So he goes, all right, I'll send you some contracts. I'll send you a contract. I said, sure. Again, my cousin's an attorney, but he does mergers and acquisitions. He couldn't read an entertainment contract.
Sure.
So I looked up the book, How to Sell a Screenplay in Hollywood. I pulled it off my shelf. It was a couple months since I read it. And I looked up the lady's name, Susan Grote, and I Googled her and found her, and I emailed her. I said, hi, Susan. My name is Michael Okon. I write under the pen name Michael Phil Cash. I have 15 best-selling novels out, not New York Times best-selling, but on Amazon best-selling. And I said, I have an agent who wants to rep me, and I don't know what to do. And I hit send. I left my cell phone number on the email, and I put it away. I figured I'll hear from her in 6 months, whatever.
Yeah.
2 minutes later, I get a call on my cell phone from LA. And she said, Michael, this is Susan Grote. Oh, I said, oh, hello, Miss Grote. She said, no, you can call me Susan. She goes, send me the contract. I gave her the whole gist of everything, what I did, what I was doing. She goes, before you sign with this London guy, you're a New Yorker, right? She was a New Yorker too. She goes, let me introduce you to my friend in Brooklyn. His name is Nick Mullendore, and he owns a literary agency.
Right.
I reached out to Nick. He said, come on, let's go meet for lunch. We met in Brooklyn. There were 2 double cheeseburgers on the table. We devoured it, and he signed me. He says, I'll rep you. He's like, you sound like a prolific author. I'd love to get your works into a big house. I said, that's great.
Good.
So he signs me. That night, Susan calls me back and says, I'm signing you as my client. Now, it just so happens that Susan Grote also put The Simpsons and SpongeBob SquarePants on air.
Yeah.
On air. I had no idea. I'm like, oh, so you're basically one of the most famous people in the world. She goes, I get around. I know exactly what has to be done when it comes to publishing. I'm like, I guess I was reading the right book at the right time. She calls it kismet. Anyway, fast forward 6 months, and everyone rejects Monsterland. Everyone, HarperCollins and Simon Schuster, everyone's rejecting it. And I really didn't think anything of it. I figured, someone will pick it up somewhere someday. So
like
Nick
getting into college,
me,
right? You only need one.
Yeah, pretty
in
much.
The end. No.
Exactly. So it gets rejected everywhere. And then he says he has a conference call with a film agent in Hollywood. And I said, okay. And he has the conference call, and he was trying to pitch her a romance book that he represents. And I said, oh, that's great. She says, but she's not really into romance. She's into monsters. And Nick goes, well, I got this author, this young kid. I'm 39. I think I consider myself young. Yeah, I got this guy who wrote this book. He's a prolific author, and he wrote a book, Monsterland, and we're trying to make it into the next Harry Potter. What do you think? Take a read. She read it over the weekend. Yeah. And she goes, she reached out and said, let's have a conference call Monday. And she says, if you get this book published, I'm going to get this book on every producer's desk in Hollywood. This is good stuff. And I'm not touting my own work. I mean,
no. I hear exactly what you're saying. Yeah. But then you're under pressure. Yeah. Then you're like, somebody says, hey,
it was really Nick. It was honestly, it was my agent who really had the pressure. I mean, I just, I write it and I submit it to him, and he says, I got a guy who just, bought one of my other clients' books. So I said, sure, what's his name? He said, Kevin J. Anderson. And my mouth had dropped to the floor. I'm like, wait, Star Wars Kevin J. Anderson? Like Dune Kevin J. Anderson? He's like, yeah. I'm like, the press? I didn't know that he owned. I didn't know he owned Wordfire, but I'm like, oh my God, I used to read Kevin J. Anderson in high school with all the Star
Sure.
Wars books. I mean, I'm a Star Wars guy. Kevin J. Anderson reads it, and he signs me to a 2-book deal, and Monsterland 1 is coming out Friday, October 13th, which is literally in 3 days. And then Monsterland 2 comes out on my 40th birthday, which is May of next year.
Nice.
So I get the book published. My film agent, who represents me through Paradigm, she kept her promise, man, and she got that book onto every single producer's desk in Hollywood. And $1 billion grossing producer picked it up and said, "This is my next movie." And right now, Jason, I'm shaking and I'm like quivering. In the last 2 weeks, they have been shopping it around to every single studio in Hollywood.
Wonderful.
It's
Wonderful.
It is. I wrote this thing in my den,
Right.
like I wrote this thing, like my kids were screaming in the background.
But that's that's actually how our art works. It's how your vocation works. Stephen King wrote his first books on, if I recall correctly, on an ironing board, in his laundry room.
Right.
Because isn't that how people work? The question is, do you want to get it done or not? It's like people say, even if you can only spare half an hour a day, you can get up in the morning, you can write half an hour a day. If you do that every day, eventually you're going to have a book done. And one thing I'll tell you is, if you wait and instead you don't do that, then at the end of 8 or 9 months, you won't have a book. So you may as well do it.
Right. That's exactly right. And I have a very unconventional way of writing, surprisingly.
Why is that?
I don't know if you want to get,
No, I'm interested.
Writing for me is very therapeutic. But the biggest part of my writing process, and that's my 9 to 5, because I don't write during the day. I don't write 9 to 5. I research and develop my characters and subjects. I have to know my universe. This universe that I'm creating, I have to know it inside and out. And what I'm doing all day long is researching and learning and sketching and outlining every one of my subjects, the arcs of my characters, the background. Monsterland is a theme park. Copper Valley, which is the city I created. I have to know the longitude and latitude of this place. I feel that to be a really decent writer, you have to research your subject ad nauseum, and that's all I do. That's my 9 to 5, is researching and developing each character and their arcs. Because if a character is doing this amazing thing and then they disappear for the second half of the novel, I don't think you did your job. At night,
well, I mean, I assume you're writing the book the way that you would write a screenplay. You're following those the save the cat, so that way.
100%.
Now, let me ask you something. You're halfway through. You're working on number 4 right now, right? So let's say you get, you're halfway through, and then you realize that you're going to make a big change. Do you go back and make changes, or do you just keep going to the end and then catch all the changes during the editing process?
It's a great question. I cannot go backwards. Once I hit, first of all, everything, I have a map in front of me when I write, that I can't just go and sit down and write chapter 1. Again, I have to outline every single page. I have to outline every single chapter. I have to know where a beginning and a middle and an end of every single chapter for me is a movie. It's a mini movie. I have to know there's an opening, there's the catalyst, and then there's the change on every single chapter. And I learned that strictly, that's all Blake Snyder. That's all Save the Cat. There's a plus and a minus, or a minus and a plus for every single chapter. And I have to do that for every single chapter. And there has to be a change, again, with every single scene. I don't start writing.
And so that means that's really wonderful, because that means that you've got the whole book outlined out. Basically written, I presume, in scripted, something like a treatment.
100%. In a script format. I have to. I can't write otherwise.
You write the whole script before you turn it into a book?
Every single one of my books has started out as a screenplay.
But have they finished as a screenplay? I mean, you literally write I'm just making sure that I'm understanding this correctly, because I think it's awesome, but I've never heard of this before in my life. The idea that you would write the entire feature-length screenplay before turning it into a book, and not by accident. You actually live.
No. That's my process. That's my process.
That's amazing.
And I've been doing this now. Yeah, I mean, listen, I can't sit and write chapter 1 and just let my mind take over from there. I need a map for all of my characters. I need an arc.
But there are cities between those 2 points. I mean, you could, for instance, You could outline. I know a woman, Jennifer Ziegler, who's a very, very talented YA author.
Sure.
She uses Excel to just do elaborate outlines on an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there are other ways. But the thing is, I actually like what you're talking about, because if you actually
Thank
commit
you.
to I'm going to write a screenplay, then you'll have a beginning and a middle and an end, and you'll actually be able to
Yeah.
sort of like pick it up and shake it to kind of see if it's working. Are things paying
That's
off?
exactly right. Yes,
Yeah.
that's exactly right. And the idea is to have what I love of taking a script. I see the script as my outline, but it's a fully operational script. I see
Yeah.
that as it's really funny, but like I was submitting Monsterland the script to a few screenwriting contests and they won. If you looked at Michael
Wow.
Philip Cash screenplays or something, you'll see that my scripts were winning awards left and right, and my books were winning left and right because I mean it's the same exact thing. The beauty of writing a novel is you're not so confined like you are in a screenplay. A screenplay, you literally have to say one sentence, and that one sentence has to describe the entire action of the scene. You literally can say like a crappy room, and that crappy room,
Right.
everyone will understand what that means. In a book, you could say,
Yes.
the chair was covered in dirt, like that type of stuff, But
Yeah.
fleshing out a screenplay into a novel is liberating, and it's like
Yeah.
you're so confined,
Yeah.
and then you get to open up the floodgates, and you could really describe the feelings and emotions of each character. Where in a script, you can't really define the emotions of the characters. You're not allowed to really.
That's amazing. I was just
Thank you, man.
thinking, I was looking at writers who it used to be back in the day. I was looking at these old like Dark Shadows paperback novels, and
Oh
this
yeah.
guy who wrote these things, he was churning out, to my knowledge, like one every 3 weeks, basically, because he was just
Oh
under
yeah.
contract, and it's just like, bam, there's a novel, bam, there's a novel, and I was like, how.
Yep.
How, how did what was his process? I wish I could get him, Dan Ross, rest his soul. I wish I could get him and
Sure.
go, please tell me like like what your process was for hammering these out. But to be honest, this thing that you're talking about, I've heard about detailed scriptments. I've never heard about doing a whole screenplay beforehand, but I have to say, it sounds like a very
Yeah.
compelling thing that our listeners might want to try, because it would force you to do all the things
Yes.
that a story really requires. And then
That's
you've got
exactly right.
if I may say, a much easier task once you're turning it into a novel. That's really fascinating.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
we should wrap up. I want to ask you where book comes out Friday. I think you can pre-order it
Sure.
now on Kindle. Where can I
Yeah.
find Monsterland? By the way, the cover is
It,
awesome. The cover is so
Thank you,
cool.
man.
It, uh,
Thank
yeah,
you.
it's super neat. Yeah.
That's
So okay.
my brother
Yeah.
did that. My brother created I was gonna have like this Star Wars looking cover with all the kids' faces on it and the theme park
Sure.
behind them. I want to look like I think Drew Sturzen, who did the Star Wars posters and the Back to the
Of
Future
course.
posters, so I wanted this whole
And the
elaborate thing,
Stranger
and my
Things
brother
poster as well. He did
one
that guy.
hundred percent. Yeah, Drew
Yeah.
Sturzen. Drew, I think his name is Sturzen or Sturzan or something.
Susan,
But
I
yeah,
know.
Drew
I don't know.
Sturzen.
I've never heard anybody say his name, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I have the Back to the Future poster in my office, and it's like,
Sure.
it's Drew Sturgeon. Sturgeon.
Yeah.
He did the Goonies poster, all the stuff that I grew up on. That really is all the inspiration of my stories that I'm telling now. So my brother came to me. He's like, dude, this is not a movie. This is a book. And I'm always thinking of course, along the lines of, movie, telling a story with beats and with character arcs and all that. My brother's like, you got to do the promise of the premise, dude. He's like, you got to have like simple, striking images. You have to tell the reader
Yeah.
what they're about to see. And literally on the front cover, it's a black and white cover of werewolves, zombies, and vampires with the name
Yeah.
Monsterland on it.
Yeah.
And book 2 was created. The cover was created this week. So I have the Glob, which is my version of the Blob, Frankenstein's Monster, which is my version of that, and then we're having mummies in book 2. So, there's a whole monster universe to be told. But anyway, my brother created that. And right now, Kevin Anderson did a ridiculous job of getting it onto pretty much every platform on planet Earth. I mean, it's on iBooks, it's on Kindle, it's hardcover, paperback. What's that one that I just saw? Barnes and Noble. It's on the Nook.
Sure. Yeah.
As a self-published guy, I was just putting my stuff on Kindle and a few other random places. But he
Yeah.
flips a switch, and you're all over the world within minutes. So
That's
I
really
don't know.
fabulous.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
and I know a lot of those editors
Thank you.
over there too, and they're really good people. They're fantastic people.
I
Um,
could not have coming from the self-published universe to Wordfire to the publishing world, specifically Wordfire has been Kevin Anderson taught me more literally in 6 months than I learned in 7 years of English class. This man has
wow.
been he's my guru. There's nothing I won't do for the guy. He's unbelievable. The whole team over
Yeah,
there is
I've
great.
never. By the way, he has a heck of a process too. I've never encountered somebody with a more unique process than Kevin J. Anderson.
He walks
It
and
blows
writes,
my
right?
mind.
He
He
walks and
dictates
writes.
his novels. He walks. He climbs
Yeah.
14ers. He dictates
Yeah.
his novels into what used to be a micro cassette recorder and is now whatever it is that he does now, and that's like, be it X-Files or Star Wars or his own science fiction
Yeah.
or whatever the hell it is. He is
Yep.
literally, and the idea that you could take a publishable sentence and that it could just come out of your mouth that way without seeing it,
Yeah. Yeah.
blind essentially. That's remarkable. But I have to say though,
Superhuman.
talking to you has been a real treat because
Thank
you've
you.
introduced me to an all new process. I'm not sure that I'll do it, but I know that
Sure.
it's very interesting, and I think it's certainly something for me to think about. And I have to tell you, I read a lot of processes, so that's like a new thing for me to go,
Thank
wow,
you.
that's interesting.
MichaelOkon.com. There's this thing is happening, this trajectory, and I'm beyond thrilled. I'm excited. I'm nervous as hell. And yeah, my first published novel is coming out this Friday, and it started with an idea of sitting with my son while we were watching this 80s and 90s movie marathon one weekend.
I
You
love it.
know,
Well,
yeah, it's
I'm
cool.
so thrilled that you could talk to me. I hope you catch up with me later and let me know how things are going. And I'm super excited about Monsterland, and I hope it gets all kind of attention. So
Thank
congratulations,
you.
and I can't wait to check it out. Have a fantastic week. Enjoy Friday the 13th, and I hope we get a chance to talk again really soon.
Jason, thanks so much for the opportunity. It was fun. Thank you.
All right.